Hi there and welcome back. It's Sandy here, and today I'm playing with some new dies from Simon Says Stamps and creating this dramatic layering die cut card. We're using Gentle Blooms, Whirl Diamond Plate, the Bestie Printed Sentiments, and the Nested Circle Wafer dies. To start with, I have used the Whirl Diamond Plate and a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of the Purple Mist cardstock from Spellbinders, and I have die cut and then layered to create the card front for my card base. Next, we're going to use the Gentle Blooms, this beautiful new die, and you want to cut these out 7 to 9 times, enough pieces to make a wreath, and we're going to go through some messy Copic coloring. For the greens, I'm using G12, G14, G17, G19, and G28. For the purples, I'm using V01, V12, V15, and V17. I'm going to zoom in here, and we're going to color a couple of these images, actually one of each, so that you can see the quick and easy technique that I like to use for these. Starting with the leaves, we're starting with the G14, and we're going to just add some color around the edge, along the stems, and into the center of the leaves. I like to work 2 at a time because I like to keep the ink wet so that I have an easier time blending it. Next color is a G17, and again going around the outside and then down the center. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to create the highlight in the center on either side of the centerpiece, if that makes sense. You'll see when we finish the first one. Okay, next is the G19. And then we're following that with the G28, which is the darkest of the greens. Okay, and I'm using this sparingly and just trying to go around the very outside edge. And of course on the stems. So then you're going to come back and you're going to use the G12 as your blend. And it's lighter than any of the other greens on purpose because I want those center part of the leaves to look like they're curled up and that the sunlight's hitting them. Okay, next we're going to move on to the other 2 leaves, and we're going to start at the beginning again with the G14, going around the outside edge. And really, you can get as messy as you want here because we're blending all the colors together, and it's really not going to matter. Don't take a whole bunch of time with it. Okay, moving on to the G17. Again, adding the next layer of color. And I'm moving out a little bit, even though you probably can't see that unless I really zoomed in. But I'm causing layers of color. Okay, and then G19, doing the same thing. And I put some music on when I'm doing this because it does take a few minutes to get all of these colored. Or watch a movie. Okay, I got my colors backwards there. Should have been G28 as the last color, but we've got G19. I got my markers mixed up. I like to lay them on my table lightest to darkest. And then I've got the G12 way over on the right-hand side because that is my blending color. Okay, so we're coming back in and we're working from the outside in a flicking motion so that we're bringing some of that darker green ink with us towards the center. Okay. And this is where I'm going to go back and I'm going to do it all over again, putting in the second layer of color. And well, it doesn't appear that it does a whole bunch. It actually does. It blends the colors a little bit better together, and it actually makes the finished product a little bit darker than the first one. So that was the G14. Now we're on to the G17. And now I'm doing all 4 leaves at once because they've all got 1 layer of ink on them. So they should stay damp enough that we should be able to blend without them drying out. And of course you need to work quite quickly doing this. And I've got 1 layer down on the stem, so I'm not really worrying about it too much. Okay, this is the G19. Okay, getting closer to the edge with this one. And that's why there's so many marks on the scrap paper. I'm trying to stay as close to the edge as I can. And adding some dark color down that center stem. Okay, and then moving on to the G28. And that's just going to be around the very outside edge, causing the shadow. Okay, And you want to go up the center of each of the leaves with this as well. And then once again coming back in with my G12, and I'm going to do my blend. And you'll see just as I'm doing it, it gets darker. And it blends a little bit better because we have 2 layers of ink in there, so the paper's pretty saturated, which is what we were going for. And there we go. One finished leaf. Moving on to the flowers, and again I'm using purples V01, V12, V15, and V17, and the V01 is the blending color. Okay, so starting with the V12, and I'm working upside down on the flowers because I'm doing the flicking technique, and you just want to flick the color on, and don't worry about there being white space. We're going to blend out with the G12 at the end of the colors. The next color is the V01. So the next color is V15, and that is my medium. Okay, and then I'm coming in with the V17, which is my darker, and I'm making shorter flicks every time I change colors. Coming back in with my V01 is where I'm going to do my blending. And these blend really, really well. I didn't need to go over them a second time. And again, you want to make about 7 to 9 of each of these flowers. So now we want to glue all the layers together. So you're just going to bring in some white glue. I'm using Barely Art glue. And you're going to add the little pieces onto the front of the big pieces. It makes a really, really, really pretty flower. Okay. And if you have a whole bunch of white spots down near the bottom, then take that light pen, in this case I'm using the V01, and just touch up any white spots. Okay, time to start putting stuff together. I've got a card base of 4 1/4 by 11, scored and folded at 5 1/2. That's an A2 size card. I like to use white card bases, and I use Hammermill 100, the one with the lizard on the front of it if you're buying it from Amazon. And I'm using the tear tape from Simon Says Stamps, Positively Terrific tear tape. And I've got my background layer of the Purple Mist 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then I have my overlay of the Whirl Diamond plate cut. And then I'm coming in with my beautiful Spellbinders scissors, and I'm going to trim off this white piece that's hanging out. These scissors are great for this. These scissors are great for everything because they're no stick. I love these things. Okay, and just trim out until you have a perfect card base. Next, I took a 3 1/2 inch piece of the Lilac Blossom, also from Spellbinders, and I cut a circle, and this is where I'm going to build my wreath on top of. And I want a little bit darker of the purple because I want there to be a shadow because it's going to be behind the wreath. So this is going to add a little bit of depth when you look at my card. And again, I'm using the Barely Art glue with the fine tip. Love that stuff. I use it for almost everything. Okay, gluing this down and holding it in place for a couple of seconds because it's not a flat surface. Okay, so we want to start laying out our leaves. And I go this way so that the leaf that I'm laying down covers up the end of the stem of the leaf that is before it. And again, if you have any white spots, now's the time to fix them. Okay, and I'm using the edge of the circle to build my wreath. Makes it nice and easy to line everything up. Okay, kind of liking that. Now's the time to fiddle. Then I start adding my flowers, and I do a large and a small, large and small, large and small, all the way around. Some of them facing in, some of them facing out, just so that it's not completely uniform because flowers don't really grow that way. Okay, and you want to tuck some underneath some of the leaves. Basically, you want to fill up the center part where you can see the stems and just work your way around. And as you can see, I have a few extra flowers and another one with a white spot. Okay, and then just fiddle with that until you're happy. Okay, now we got to attach this wreath, and here's your secret weapon, press and seal. Grab a piece, cut it down to size, lay it over top of your card, press really, really hard on all those little die cut pieces, and then very carefully pick up the piece of press and seal, and you end up with the entire wreath on it. You want to turn it over, you want to add a whole bunch of glue to the back. I decided to use glue because I have already raised the background with the Whirl diamond plate. So I've already got foam tape underneath that. If I had foam tape all on the back of this wreath, then this card would probably require extra postage. And if you know me, I do not like extra postage. So instead, I'm using the glue. Okay, so then I can pick the whole thing up again. I can position where I want it and then lay it down, and then take a large acrylic handle and pop it over top and let it dry. You just want to leave it there and don't move it for about 20-25 minutes. In my case, it was half an hour. I had lunch. Welcome back. Okay, we're ready to finish our card. We can take the acrylic handle off. Then you want to very carefully, and holding on both sides, peel this back. And you can save the press and seal. I use them 3 or 4 times. And look how nice that is. It's nice and flush. Okay, now I've got a couple of sentiments that I cut out from this Bestie set. This is printed sentiments. Love these things. I have cut some foam squares in half, and I am going to be adding them to the center part of these 2 sentiments because the background is flush with the card, and then the outside edges have got 2 layers on them. So we want this to lay flat. So you only want to put foam squares on the inside pieces, and then you want to put a little bit of white glue on the outside edges. Sorry, I'm getting a little hoarse. Okay, so line that up in the center, and then I've got a second smaller sentiment that I'm going to be popping underneath and adding a little bit of glue to either edge of that. Thanks for being my friend. Nice sentiment. There we go. If you got a few extra pieces, open up your card and let's add a little bit of decal inside the card. I'm going to put down 1 set of the leaves, and I added 2 flowers. After I took the pictures and got ready to load this all up, I wish I had 3. So maybe add 3 little flowers to give yourself a little bit more of a contrast. Okay, pretty on the inside, pretty on the outside. You know me, it's time to add some bling. Okay, so I got some Spellbinders glittery little bits out here. These are Crystal Mix Color Essential Gems, and I've got a few different colors. I decide on the Crystal Mix. It has a Ouroboros finish to it, so it goes really nice with the purple. And I'm going to use a variety of sizes and just kind of place them randomly in and around the wreath for some blingy finish. Love these. Okay, so that's it for my card today. Everything I have used is listed underneath this video. Just click on the more and you'll get the whole breakdown. There's also a link over to my blog where you'll get a detailed description and all the measurements for today's card and all the supply list, along with thumbnails that you can click on to shop. And if you do, thank you so much for using my affiliate links. I hope you enjoyed today's card. If you did, please consider giving me a thumbs up, sharing the card with your friends. I would really appreciate that. And until next time, toodles.